Hi, I'm Emma and I'm 42 and live in Lincolnshire, and it's Rheumatoid Arthritis Awareness Week. So I've been getting a few more information from NRAS, obviously flagging up on the Facebook page, so it's been quite interesting having a bit of a read of it recently, looking at some videos that people have uploaded on there about their diagnosis and how they're coping at the moment, and felt I wanted to do the same thing. I think video uploads are a really good way of letting other people know how you're coping, how you're managing. This is the first one I've ever done, so I'm a little bit apprehensive. My journey started a few years ago, really. Not as early as some of the ladies and gentlemen that are already on the Facebook page. My journey started back in 2007. It was a bit of a busy year, really. 2007, in the March, I qualified as a staff nurse. Been to university at Nottingham, qualified and had my graduation. So really, really proud, and went to work in gynecology, which I'm still there 11 years on, so must really enjoy it still. And in the May, I moved in with my partner, who then later became my husband. And that's when my symptoms first started, really. I had problems with my lower part of my body, my knees and my feet. Were the major issues. I was suffering with very tight, swollen knees. I had swollen ankles. When I walked, my feet felt like I was walking on stones, so like on a shingle beach. It was really uncomfortable, really painful. Kind of did all the usual things, bought new shoes, thought, I need some new shoes. I tried analgesia, some ibuprofen, that kind of thing. And it really didn't make any difference at all. If anything, my symptoms kind of progressed and got even worse. So in the June, I then made the decision to go to the GPs and get things checked out, because I thought there must be a problem, and went to the GPs. We discussed my symptoms, threw a few ideas about, of which rheumatoid wasn't one of them. He suggested I go and get some bloods done, so I had loads of bloods taken to screen for no end of different things, and waited for the results to come back. I'd, in the meantime, been on the internet, as we do, trying to Google my symptoms, and lupus came up a few times, so I'd kind of at that point convinced myself I'd got lupus. But I thought, well, wait for results to come back and all that. And my results come back showing that I was positive for rheumatoid antibodies, which was a bit of a shock. That wasn't even a consideration at that point. It wasn't even, I don't think I'd even thought about rheumatoid. Arthritis wasn't a condition that a young woman would have, surely. So the GP then quite rightly decided to refer me to rheumatology at our local hospital. So I was referred there. Through the choosing book, I'd got some annual leave in August. I think I got 2 weeks annual leave at the time, so I'd booked it off to have my appointment then, as well not to affect work. So I went off to this rheumatoid appointment a few weeks later, and was pretty much diagnosed on the day, really. Had more bloods taken, had some history taken, and poked and prodded about like you do when you go to these hospital appointments. So yeah, diagnosed pretty much instantaneously, and they said they felt it was kind of a fast onset from the May till the August, and they commenced me on gold standard guidelines. So they started me on methotrexate. So they started me on a loading dose and obviously increased it until we got to a point where I felt it was being effective. And some sulfasalazine they started me on as well. I think that kind of came shortly after the methotrexate. I think they did that first and then started me on the sulfasalazine, on the DMARD. Quite an interesting time then laid ahead, kind of with me dealing with this diagnosis and how I was feeling physically, psychologically, emotionally, as well as being a newly qualified nurse as well, and trying to find my feet, and dealing with pain and stuff as well. And then in the October, I had the unfortunates of having my first kind of relapse, really, which I have to say was the most awful time, I think, in the past 11 years that I've had. The pain was phenomenal. I was off for 6 months, off work, struggling to walk, weren't driving at all, obviously, for that period of time. Really, really struggled. I think the other half was struggling as well. We just moved in together, and he managed. He dealt with it as best as he could. But yeah, it must have been hard for him as well, watching the girlfriend kind of sleep most of the day and the night, and take all this medication and struggle to mobilise and walk to the loo. And I remember the times when he was kind of got his arms out to help get me off the bed, for me to stand up, and even standing, that joint movement felt like my bones were snapping. It was horrific. But came out the other side. 6 months later, went back to work on phased return. So yeah, the kind of diagnosis and treatment post then has been buoyant, and I don't always listen to my body when I should do. I'm a bit stubborn generally, and I think sometimes that trait can sometimes be a good thing. I pushed through quite a bit of it. My pain threshold is certainly a lot better than what it was 10 years ago. Labour was a doddle compared to a rheumatoid relapse. Really was. Labour, I just had a TENS machine back then. But no, we was getting married in August 2009. So at that point, yeah, things were okay. In the 2008, we'd talked about anti-TNF treatment. My disease activity score had always been fairly high. So we discussed the anti-TNF treatment then. And I think we was in the process of kind of looking at them, and then I'd came off the methotrexate the beginning of 2009 because we were getting married in the August, and we discussed maybe kind of trying for a baby. So obviously I knew it was important that I couldn't be on methotrexate to conceive, because obviously I was worried about problems with methotrexate and obviously a fetus development. So I came off that. Was still taking everything else, obviously, because that was okay to do so at that point. And within a few short months of coming off the methotrexate, we conceived Holly, who was born in the December 2009. So we got married in the August, as we'd planned to do, with me being 24 weeks pregnant, in a dress that had to be altered to kind of accommodate a bit of a bump that had occurred. So obviously when I was pregnant, everything went into remission, so the discussion with anti-TNFs kind of went off the wayside, really, because I was kind of feeling so well, which was fantastic. It was like I felt like Superwoman, because my body had kind of gone into remission and was just feeling fantastic. And, you know, pregnancy suited me. It was a very textbook pregnancy. And yeah, Holly was born in the December of 2009. Symptoms reoccurred maybe about 18 months later. So yeah, sort of since the symptoms kind of came back again, 2010, 2011, it's been a bit buoyant. I've dealt with it, and obviously seen the consultants and had steroids and everything else as and when I was able to do, and just kind of got on with it really the best that I could, and kind of accepted this is what it was going to be like. Last year I had another big relapse, and consequently ended up going back to the GPs eventually in the late autumn, beginning of winter, after telling myself I'm going to go to the doctors, and never going. So eventually I went back, I think it was in November time, and they referred me back to rheumatology, and I promptly got a telling off when I went to my rheumatoid appointment, which was in the start of the new year of this year. Why haven't you been sooner? So yeah, I officially classed myself as being told off. So we discussed anti-TNFs again, and I kind of figured that's what was going to happen, and I was happy for that to happen, and go on to them if they thought that was appropriate, and that's what we did. I started etanercept in February of this year, and tomorrow I'm back at hospital again to have my 4-month review on etanercept to see how I'm getting on with it, and go from there. So tomorrow I'll be going in very positive and all smiles, and giving them the thumbs up that yeah, it's definitely working. I think immunosuppressant conditions are very difficult for people to see because they're an invisible illness, because, you know, physically there's no kind of scars, there's no rash spots, markings on our bodies at all. It's all kind of internal, and I think people sometimes struggle with that. So sometimes I'd get, oh, well, you know, are you too young to have arthritis? And it's like, well, you know, you can get juvenile varieties of it, women get it, you know, and you just kind of give them that information just to kind of empower them a little bit, really, to let them know that actually things like this are out there, and yes, you can't see them, but a lot of us manifest it in different ways. We all different characters and personalities, and some of us are different in exhibiting it than others. So yeah, this video is just a bit of a thank you really for the support that I get and got and still have from the NHS, from the rheumatoid teams that have looked after me over the past 10-11 years, to NRAS. They were a massive area of support for me when I was first diagnosed, on the phone for an hour crying at them. They must have thought, this bad woman on the phone crying, but no, they were a brilliant source of support in the early days. So thank you very much from the bottom of my heart. I'm still here, feeling quite well, but yeah, rheumatoid's out there, and yeah, it's not a physical thing that we can see. It's something that we deal with, and I don't think it possibly always gets the out there kind of thing that it needs to have, really. So I think NRAS are doing a really good thing by having an awareness week. I'm doing my bit on the Facebook page. I do what I can on my Instagram feed and Facebook as and when I can. I've got massive strong support network. I've got really good friends and amazing family and amazing work colleagues and friends at work and an amazing boss, all very supportive. And I can talk to them if I'm struggling, and they'll listen to me and listen to me vent, and then go, oh, come on, let's get on with it. But yeah, this is just, hopefully, if somebody out there is watching this and can resonate with any of these videos that are being posted on the NRAS Facebook page at the minute, then it's got to be a good thing, really, if we can reach out to them people. This is just a thank you, and we are here. And if you need us, you know where we are. But thank you very much for watching this video. I've not done one before, so hopefully it wasn't too traumatic. And thank you. Bye bye.